Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Coupleonukes. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Whiskey, and I just got back from running 7 miles. Why, you may ask? One, I do that pretty much a few times a week, but also just an hour and a half ago, I got done recording last week's episode with Stephen Hockman, who we talked about fitness, and it got me pumped up. I was like, I listened, I was there recording. I was like, I gotta go work out. And so we are here today, still on that adrenaline rush to talk about fitness again, but in a different aspect. Today, we're going to focus more on fitness as a tool for recovery. In the previous episodes, we talked about using fitness to improve your health, boost your energy, and just all the different concepts around why you should work out. But this week, we're going to address alcoholism, addiction, and recovery through fitness. So it's an amazing way to apply fitness in your life if you're someone who is struggling with that. And it's a great option for those of you who aren't feeling the traditional methods such as rehab, if AA groups aren't working for you, or you need an outlet and you just haven't found one yet. And we're here with a man who did that. And I'm sure many of you are skeptical saying, how can fitness help me recover? But we are here with someone who is proof of that. Mr. Nathan, would you please go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, man. Nathan Buttigieg from Victoria, Australia. That's it, dude. I didn't use any outside programs or anything like that. I struggled with alcohol and cocaine, and yeah, really just put all my energy into being a better individual. And to me, that includes being fit, being strong, and the workouts kind of gave me an outlet instead of suppressing all the feelings I was feeling inside with alcohol, drugs, partying, escapism. I was able to put all that into my workouts and be a better man because of it. I actually
Yeah.
just went to gym at 7 a.m. here. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then went to gym as well. So both
Wow,
here working.
awesome. Yeah, actually, I for some reason I thought you were in Canada, and I guess that is because I don't. If place is not in the United States, I go to the next place I know, Canada. So glad we got that out of the way. So there is a time zone
Like other
difference.
side of the world, Australia.
Oh yeah, I guess it's kind of like Canada, but not quite. I will say it's evening here, so I appreciate, waking up at 3 a.m. is not something everyone can do, and then to go work out and then record. So I appreciate that. But I want to start with what led to your addiction. You talk about using cocaine and alcohol, and you talk about feelings. What kind of feelings were you dealing with that turned you in that direction?
Yeah, so 2020 we got lockdowns pretty hard because of COVID here in Victoria, Australia. So we had lockdowns where you couldn't pretty much leave your house. Most businesses closed down for a period of time, and at the time I was working at a gym, and I was super dialed in. I was doing really well. I was eating, training all the time. Had a girlfriend at the time, a house, and I lived in another part of Victoria. And because of lockdowns, the gym closed down, and I guess financial pressure got the best of my relationship that I was in as well. And I was forced to move back in with my mum and dad's here in South Gippsland. And yeah, I love the job. I love the place I lived. I love the girl I was with at the time. So after losing it all, friend groups, all that kind of stuff, I instead of just trying to be better straight away, I sat in a long time with drinking and drugs, feeling like a failure and feeling like a loser. And yeah, it was mainly that. It was mainly just like I'd done all this, well, I felt all this work to get to where I was in life, and then had it kind of stripped away from me. And I felt like that was my fault. And the way I cope with it was drinking and escaping from it.
Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people can relate to, which is drinking and using drugs to escape, to suppress those feelings. And at what point did you realize that it was kind of ruining your life? Like, what was the progression with that?
It was very sudden. I don't really know what made me realize it, but it was just one night, Boxing Day 2021. I was just sitting as I do, drinking on my own, getting blackout drunk, and I just things weren't going well. I still couldn't hold down a relationship. I still wasn't progressing in life. I had a job and stuff like that. I wasn't a complete stuff up, but
Right.
Things just weren't going as well. And as an individual, I felt like I was going backwards rather than going forwards. I was very unconfident in the way of social situations. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't look people in the eye unless I was drinking, unless I was high or drunk. So I
Mm.
was very like awkward, and what I seen and still do as like super weak, just a very like weak individual. But I realized like a lot of the reasons why I was drinking and doing drugs and all that kind of stuff was to kind of bring me up to a level where I could be a life for the party and be someone like everyone loved. So I wanted to be that sober as well.
Yeah, for sure. Now, a quick pivot. You said Boxing Day, which is now I remember why I thought you were in Canada. That is not really celebrated in the US, but it is celebrated in Canada. It's a federal holiday there. So that's why
It's
I thought Boxing Day was a Canadian thing, and it did say in your bio. I didn't realize that was celebrated in other countries because it's not really an American thing. Like some states celebrate it, but I just wanted everyone to
I
know
think
that, so I didn't seem like a complete idiot on my own show. I thought
I
that's
think
what I
Australia
thought.
almost celebrates Boxing Day more than Christmas. We do. All our family comes over on Boxing Day, and it's a big. That's when we do our dinner and stuff, like our lunch and stuff like that. So
I don't even know what Boxing Day is. I'm thinking of two things, either fighting or like cardboard boxes. So
I
you
don't know why
explain.
it's called it, but the day after Christmas is Boxing Day, the
Oh,
26th of December.
you're getting rid of all the boxes from Christmas, maybe.
Maybe that's why they call it that, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
little caveat, but yeah, sorry about that, everyone. I just as soon as you said it, I was like, that's what it was. Because I was like, why did I think Canada? And then yeah. But you talk about something that is really relatable, something that, my dad struggles with, that a lot of people who turn to alcohol and drugs, which is not being able to function in society in terms of maybe it's social awkwardness, maybe it's social anxiety, or being the life of the party without drinking or doing drugs. And yeah, I know I have friends who if we go out, they have to have drinks. And I'm talking we're just going to lunch during the day and they're getting two or three margaritas. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's day drinking now. Or
Yeah,
even people who just won't participate in certain activities if they're not drinking, and it really
yeah.
becomes a crutch. And so when it gets to that point, and a lot of people don't realize it, because even my father, he couldn't go to the movie theaters or the water park. And he's at a point in his alcoholism recovery now, which he still is an alcoholic and still drinks all the time. But when he is trying to be sober and maintain that, he actually has the recognition now that he wants to go to the movie theaters, but he goes, I can't, son. It's a trigger for me. And once you realize that, I think it is great. But you talk about getting to that point in your life where it's like, hey, I don't want to have to use alcohol or drugs to be able to talk to people, to be able to go to work or go to a social function. And so you start working on, not using those kinds of things. So how does that look and how did it play out in your life where you've made a decision now, but obviously it's not like you can just quit and throw everything away. So how did that progression look like from there?
I kind of just like had faith that if I removed alcohol, if I removed the bad things that I was using as like a like a quick level up, if
Yeah.
I removed those things, I would force myself to do it, put myself in social situations without it. So the
Mm.
first thing was a decision to remove it. And then I just started small, man. I just started, I would just go, when I was drinking, I would go to my friend's house and drink. I wouldn't even talk to my friends sober. It would just be
Wow.
like trying to get drunk. So, um, yeah, it was just like removing it and then just little steps, man, little steps. And then there was one point where I made like a decision for 30 days. I'd go and talk to a random person every day and have conversations and like force myself. And I was like literally shaking as I was doing it. But um,
Right.
yeah, it just removal of the bad thing. And then you just put yourself in a position where you have to do it. Otherwise, what? You're just going to stay in a house all day.
Well, so it sounds like the hard part wasn't removing the alcohol and drugs. It was actually living and working towards, completing those things without them. which is very interesting because I think a lot of people, the hardest part is getting rid of the alcohol and drugs. And that's what we focus on so much in terms of recovery and support. But we don't focus enough on helping these individuals deal with life without the drugs and alcohol. We just worry so
Yeah,
much about keeping them away from it and making sure they're not drinking. All right, they can be not drinking, but that doesn't mean that they're living, right? And so
yeah,
we have to
yeah, yeah.
make sure that they're not drinking and they're living, that they're thriving, right? So
Well,
I think,
if you focus on not drinking and still focusing on drinking, like it's still the focus is
right.
staying away from the thing, right? Which means the focus is the thing. I just
Mm,
made a decision. I'm not going to do this anymore, and then just focused on being a better individual. So being better socially, being more fit, overcoming all the fears I had around everything because alcohol and drugs, whenever you kind of feel fear or feel anxious or feel like pretty much anything, your first instinct is to go to the thing that you've always gone to
right.
since so.
Awesome. And so when you were doing this, you're improving, your life and you're saying to yourself, I also want to be a strong, healthy individual. I want to be good at all things I do. And so you start incorporating fitness into your life. What did that look like? Was it running? Was it swimming? Was it going to the gym? What kind of, activities were you participating in and how did you merge that into your life?
Well, I started going to the gym super young, right? Like I said, I worked at a gym before all this, before this big decline, but I was mixing the two, you know what I mean? I wasn't fully in like the fitness scene and wasn't fully in the drinking scene. So when my life went to shit, I was fully in the drinking scene.
Mm.
So I got rid of all that and then all my energy had to go somewhere. I'm a extremist with everything, meaning if I drink, I want to be the best drinker. If I do cocaine, I want to do the most cocaine out of everyone. If we're having a good night, I want to have the best night ever. So when I went into the like fitness and put all my energy into that, it was just I wanted to be the best at what I did. With fitness, it was lifting weights, hypertrophy training. If you see my Instagram, I'm not small, but it was just that eating the right food, macronutrients, learning how to train properly. I don't do much cardio. I don't run. I'm not a good runner, but I do cardio at the start of my workouts all the time, just as a way to warm up. Like I wake up at 3 a.m. every day and then go to gym. So I make an effort to sweat before I train and then I train.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even on my non-cardio days, what I do is I'll do the elliptical for like 5 minutes just to warm up, kind of stretch everything out, and then go lift. I hate a cold start. You just get to the gym and start lifting weights. Like, let me,
Yeah,
especially at 3 a.m.
it,
It's like I gotta wake up.
it's not even about like injuries or anything like that. I feel better once my heart rate's
Yeah,
up, once I'm sweating a
yeah,
little bit, once I'm warm, and then I feel like the weights are really like they really hit. If I just go straight into weights, it just feels weird as.
yeah, for sure. And so, what does your routine for fitness look like right now? You talk about waking up at 3 a.m. and going to the gym. How many times a week are you going, and for how long are you staying?
I go every day. The time doesn't really matter. It's just like I just run the program that I've set. So I'll go in. I
Okay.
went in today. I did a push day, so chest, um, like front delts and
Yeah.
sorry, fuck no. I did back and buys today. Chest was yesterday. Back and
Oh,
buys.
okay.
So I did lat pull downs and some rows and some bicep curls. I doing like a new way of training right now that's like super difficult. So you pick a weight where you fail like 10 reps, and then you're just gonna keep failing until you get to 50 reps. So after your 10, 11 reps, you'll get like seven, then you'll get like six, then you'll get five, and you're just gonna keep doing that until you get to 50. So.
Yeah. And my question for you as well, which is, did God or faith play a role at all in any of this in your life?
100% afterwards. Once I was
Okay.
sober. Yeah, the craziest thing with it's the first time that someone's asked me about that, by the way. I've done a couple of podcasts, but
Oh, thank you.
yeah, it's always a good conversation, man. It's the best conversation. Yeah, so after I got sober off drinking and cocaine because I struggled with cocaine after I stopped drinking for a little while. I used
Mm.
that instead of drinking to do the same things, exactly like still suppress what I was feeling and all that kind of stuff. So after I stopped drinking, I remember I was watching some like documentary, and at the end of the documentary, I like grew up Catholic as a kid, but when you grow up in religion, it never really hits until it's like,
Yeah.
till you're picked to see it, till you're
Right.
getting the messages. And then I remember I'd been sober for a while, and then I was just kind of in this lonely stage where I wasn't had no friends that I used to have because they're all out drinking and they're allowed to do what they want. So I was kind of in this in between phase, and I was watching this documentary. And then at the end of the documentary, the guy said like, I never even like started being like successful in any way until like I believed in God, and then like I was like, I never even like kind of thought of like I never people say God, but you don't really hear it until you see it properly.
Right.
And then yeah, that night I told myself, I'm like, if there's a God, if there's a thing like a higher power, um like kind of show me kind of thing. I'm like, I need like kind of something. That night my Spotify got hacked, bro, and fucking some Jesus song was playing on my phone, and that's all that played. I woke up during the night, turned it off, and then I was like, that's weird. Went back to sleep, and it wasn't until I woke up in the morning I realized what happened. Right, so I went on my Spotify and realized it got hacked just to play one song from like the Netherlands or Norway or something like that. It
Wow.
was just to play that one song, and it never got hacked again. And I was like, that's crazy. And then it kind of opened me up. You start listening to people talking about God and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not like Christian or Catholic or Muslim. I'm not like with a group. I love everyone that loves a higher power and like, um, kind of submits to. They've got a purpose in life to help other people and to do good for others and live a life like to serve. But yeah, for me, it's just like a connection with a higher power, not just like what the
Yeah.
Catholics believe or what the Christians believe or what the Muslims believe. I did like a lot of reading and a lot of I guess study and listening, but it's not one group for me. It's all of it. They're all right to me.
Yeah, and that's something I put forward as well, which is a individual relationship with God. And you talk about how as a child it doesn't really hit you until later on in life when it's your time. And I agree. And I think part of that is because the church, they and or your family, or school, whoever kind of brought you into the faith, they tell it, they don't teach it. And a lot of these places, a lot of people I talk to who grew up like Catholic or Christian, they didn't grow up being cultivated to ask questions. I've always been intellectually curious, which is kind of what pushed me to read the whole Bible for myself. Because, when you grow up, you hear all it's like, I guess I'll call it cookie cutter kind of religion where they have all these stories all nice and polished and picked out for you, right? But there are so many stories in the Bible that you could go to any Catholic and Christian right now and they've never heard of it. And it's like
Hmm.
so many people grow up just whatever verses are being put out by the church, they don't have an individual desire to read. And we actually talked in the last episode about how so many people see church as a chore or a family tradition rather than a relationship with God. And I think something you said that really resonates with me is that you started listening to people's stories. And that is for me one of the greatest ways that my faith is maintained and boosted is hearing other people what they've gone through and the miracles in their life. So many people say, God isn't real because there's no miracles anymore. Miracles come in so many different forms and sizes, and we all want the big one like the earth being flooded or a giant fiery ball from the sky. But there are miracles every day of people's lives being saved, of people's lives being turned around.
Hmm.
And so, what I like to do is listen to podcasts like Refuge Freedom Stories, hosted by Johnny T. I've been on that show. Check it out. Shameless
Let's
plug.
go. Let's
But
go.
it's about real lives changed by the power of God, and I love listening to it because no one is out there on the show preaching at you or condemning you. They're just talking about what happened in their life and why they believe. And it's such a great thing to hear those and be like, wow. And then you really look at your life like you said, you had your incident with the Spotify, but you probably looked back after that at other moments in your life and were like, wow, that must have been something bigger than me. And I just didn't realize it at the time. I've
Yeah.
had so many of those. I love it. My faith grows exponentially with time because the more I live, the more I look back at more stuff. I'm like, wow, the chances of that happening or this happening.
Just
Uh,
like once your eyes are open to it, you realize that it really does just all fall together. But once you have the idea of faith and that things are going to work out, because that's the thing people like lack when they don't have a belief in a higher power or like a one
right.
universe kind of thing. But when you have an idea of faith and that you can pursue anything and it'll work out how it's supposed to, that changes everything. You don't have that without that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like the individuals that critically think as well. That like um that ask questions and stuff like that. You don't really need. It's not until you need like a higher power, not until you need help that you kind of start looking at it. I think a lot of people that are the classic religious person,
Right.
they never needed it, which is kind of like what they always did, and they always just listen to who was speaking and kind of stuff like that. But there's
Yeah.
there's a point that I just needed it, man. I was so alone, and yeah, it always comes to you like that.
Yeah. And so we talked a lot about your recovery and where are you now in terms of do you ever drink at social occasions? Or are you completely 100% dry and that is your plan for the rest of your life? What is your relationship with alcohol looking like for the future and for the present?
I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. I live a healthiest lifestyle, not to be healthy, just to operate in a better way. And
Mm,
because people might like say, one drink isn't too bad, three drinks isn't too bad. And for some people that might be true, but there is people in the world, extremists like myself, that if we do something, we have to fucking do it really well. So you might not be affected by the bottle, by whatever you're doing, the cigarette, and you might be able to get away with it, but maybe your kid doesn't, maybe your nephew
mm.
doesn't, maybe your sister doesn't, maybe your parents don't, maybe the person like walking past you in the street that looks inside the pub and sees you drinking doesn't. So you've always got an impact, whether it's yourself or externally. So no, I don't do anything. I you can't be healed and still go back. You can't be like you know we use kilos here. You can't be 200 kilos and get down shredded abs, wide shoulders, and then still participate in like just stuffing your face full of food and using it as an escape. When you're really healed, you just look at that stuff as so bad that yeah, there's no way I'd go back. You couldn't. If someone gave me literally $1 million in my account and said, "I'll take it back if you don't have a drink," I said, "Take it back, bro. I don't care."
Mm. I like that you've grown to the point where you see it for how it affects your life, the negative side of it, and you're sickened by it. And like you said, you see yourself as a weak person when you're using it, and you don't want to be a weak person. So I think that's a great mindset to have, because like you said, there's a lot of alcoholics or drug addicts who sober up for a period of time, thinking
Mm.
they'll reset their bodies and their minds, and then they'll be like, all right, I'll just have one drink from now on, or uh, whatever it may be. And
Yeah, and then they
you
end
know,
up relapsing 10 months later because you
yeah,
can't dabble. When you're an
exactly.
addict, when you've got this personality, you can't dabble in shit. It's like we choose to be family men, and then we're gonna be the best fucking family men. Or we choose to go to gym, and now we're fucking like tracking all our food and weighing it, and like trying to fucking like watching every video on every bodybuilder. That you can't dabble when you've got this kind of personality. People try to fight against that they're an addict. If you're an
Yeah, of
addict,
course.
then it's just what you're addicted to that's going to change. The stuff you're addicted to can build you, can make you better, but people always just like they're just fighting against it.
Yeah, you know what? It's a great point because we've talked about it before my show, especially when I had Dr. Brian LeQuanon on. We talked about AA and how there are people who go to it every day. Some people go twice a day, some people go every few months. And my father has always complained for a couple reasons. One, he doesn't like AA because he doesn't feed well off of negative energy. He goes there and hears everyone's depressing stories, and instead of being inspired to stay sober or to not have that happen to him, he's just like, life sucks, this is awful. And but the point is to be inspired and to get support for one another. But also some people go to be held accountable because they know. There was a guy that Dr. Brian knew who, I mean, I think he was like in his 70s. He had been, sober for decades. And he goes, I can't promise you, even after all this time, that if you put a line of Coke on the table in front of me, that I wouldn't do it. Even after
That's
all this time, because
crazy.
that's just who I am, you know? So
Yeah.
I explained to my dad, I've tried to explain to him, I said, they know that that's in them. And Dr. Brian put it like this. He goes, it is a demon in the corner of your room doing push-ups every day, waiting for you to stumble. It is always there waiting to take you down. It is a part of you. And so some people think, like you said, that they can just go back or they can just kind of dabble in it. But that's not how it works. And all it
No,
takes
you
is
go
a
you go
small
from you
drink.
go from one thing, being obsessed with one thing, having one thing like run your mind and run your thoughts
Yeah.
and run your actions, and then you move all that energy from that thing, and you got to pick another thing. You got to go straight. That's why so many addicts go into the fitness industry and just fucking murder it. Or so many addicts become coaches because they're obsessed with this thing and they want to share it like with
Right.
everyone else. It's like when you drink and you're trying to get everyone to drink. It's the same thing with when you go into something else. Addicts that still struggle, they don't have another thing. They don't have another
Yeah.
purpose, another thing to move into. To put their personality of like obsessive, impulsive, and super extreme, that has to go into somewhere else. You can't just like stay in the middle and like, because yeah, that you'll always go back. I don't look at like that's the thing too. People look at like oh a life if I like never could drink again, I could never eat like bad food again, I could never do drugs again, then that would be prison, right? That would be like well then I've got nothing to do. It wouldn't just like then I wouldn't be able to live life. My idea of all that kind of stuff is when I was doing that stuff, when I was engaging in like drinking and drugs and overeating and all that kind of stuff, that was prison. That's what ran my mind. And I was not
Yeah.
intelligent. I was super weak. I was something else had a hold of me where like I couldn't control my thoughts. I was like, oh, I'm all good, and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna go get something. You know what I mean? To me, that's prison. A life without it, where you're free thinking, free from everything, and you're controlling your thoughts and mind, that's the life that I want.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, I know we've talked a lot about fitness in particular, but like Nathan said, it doesn't have to be fitness, right? Your new thing could be, who knows, it could be landscaping, it could be cleaning a house. As long as it's something you can do and focus on, if it is distracting you from, like I said, that demon in the corner ready for you, waiting for you, telling you to come back, that you can have one drink, you know, as long as you are distracted from that, focusing on something else, whether it's coaching other people or maybe it's an artistic kind of expression, maybe it's painting or video gaming, whatever it is, you know, that's what can help you. So don't just
Yeah,
listen to this episode and think that fitness is your only option for recovery and distraction, that it's who you have to become. You can become someone else and just someone else who doesn't use alcohol and drugs. And so I just want to put that
yeah.
out
The
there for
the work
everyone.
the workout is always good because it
Mhm.
always brings you up in mood. See, people get like super low, they get super sad, they get
Yeah,
super depressed because life always goes that way, right? It's always ups and downs. You're always going
it
to go through
is.
times of like tribulation and times of success. But the powerful thing about a workout is when you go and hit it hard as, you're always brought up. You always walk out way better than you were before. And then once you're brought up, then you can kind of overview your problems that you're having and assess them. You never want to assess the problems and who you are as an individual when you're at that super low depressed state. You always want to come up and then overview it. Because when it's super low depressed, you're always overviewing it as the victim. When you're, hit a hard as workout, you've got a pump, you feel good as, then you can kind of overview it objectively and really attack the problem and then act on solutions.
Yeah. Now, before we sign off here, Nathan, I want to let everyone know that your Instagram is going to be in the description for this episode. Why should we go check out your Instagram? What are you offering us?
I mean, no one has to check out my Instagram if they don't want to. It's just if you want to, if you like what I'm saying, if I'm connecting with you, come and shoot me a message, man. I love meeting new people. I'm not gonna try to do anything else. We're just all people here, people on the internet, people in real life. So I got tons of content on there. You'll have to come check it out and tell me if you like it or tell me if you don't like it. But my main thing is our life doesn't get better until we as an individual get better. Okay, I can come give you a house, I can come give you money, I can come give you the hot girl that you want, but unless you as an individual change, you're not going to keep anything, and it's not going to feel right anyway because you're not elevating as a person. So life doesn't get better until you get better. Come and check out my Instagram if you want. You don't have to, bro. No one has to.
Yeah, but I highly recommend it if you're one of those people who struggles with social anxiety or meeting new people. Like Nathan said, he went on a challenge every 30 days, meet someone new. He can be your first person. You've already got a bit of his personality, still someone new, and still a great stepping stone. And he can give you some great advice that we didn't get to on this episode. So be sure to check that out and send this to anyone struggling to recover. And remember, help them not just stop drinking but to focus on something different, to focus on recovery and living. But Nathan, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I really appreciate what you do to help other people recover. I think there's nothing more powerful than people who have done it themselves leading the way.
Sailing through the ocean blue, nuclear reactors my crew, guiding the ship, the stars as our guide. Through the waves we ride, jokes and laughter fill the air. On this voyage we have to share, working together, side by side. As one family we will abide. In the heart of a ship we reside, nuclear operators with pride, powering the vessel with every stride. Our mission, a source of great pride.